I was peeling potatoes at my kitchen table when it happened. The sunlight had just started creeping across the laminate floor, glinting off the steel edge of my mixing bowl. It was one of those Midwest mornings in early June. Birds chattering, neighbors mowing too early, and the smell of fresh grass mixing with my cinnamon coffee. My hands were busy but my mind was far away, thinking about what I might wear to the family reunion this year. I'd been hosting it on and off since 1987, back when everyone still brought Jell-O salad and folding chairs in their trunks. But I'd passed the baton last summer just like they wanted. And now apparently they'd passed me over. I only found out because of a notification ping. Ding. It was my granddaughter Lacey. She'd posted a photo to her Facebook story. I clicked it without thinking. It was one of those blurry group selfies. Sunlight streaking across half their faces, kids running in the background, soda cans on picnic tables. Then I saw the sign. Wilson Family Reunion, 2025. Held at Fairwood Park. My park. The same one we always used. My heart gave one hard thump like it tripped over itself. My hands froze over the half-peeled potato. Oh, no they wouldn't. Not them. Not like this. I stared at the photo. Zoomed in. Counted faces. I saw Lacey, her mother Diane, my oldest son Marvin with his new girlfriend. Lord, he cycles through them like socks. Even my cousin Arlene, who hasn't shown up to anything since 2012, was in the photo holding a bratwurst. But not me. No phone call. No message. No invite. I opened my group text. The Wilson reunion planning thread was still there, but dead quiet since last year. I scrolled. Nothing new. No updates. Then I clicked Lacey's profile and that's when I saw it. Reunion this Saturday. She'd posted it 3 days ago, tagged the whole family. Well, almost the whole family. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even mentioned. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the screen so long it dimmed. The room felt colder. I tried to shake it off. Told myself maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they assumed I already knew. Maybe they'd call. But something deep in my chest, a tight, quiet knot I'd been ignoring for years, told me the truth. This wasn't an accident. They forgot me. Or worse. They left me out. I stood up too fast, knocking over the bowl of potatoes. The clatter made me jump. I pressed my palm to my chest. My heart was doing that thing it does sometimes, racing like it's afraid to stop. Okay, I whispered, steadying myself. Okay. I walked to the window, hoping maybe some fresh air would clear my head. I looked out across my yard. The roses I planted for my husband's memorial still blooming, a squirrel dancing across the fence, the wind flipping the neighbor's wind chimes into a frenzied song. I blinked back tears. This family used to need me. I was the glue. The one who kept birthday calendars taped to the fridge, who remembered everyone's middle name, who packed extra Tupperware in case someone forgot to bring a dish. I was the one who made this family feel like family. No. I was a ghost in my own bloodline. I sat back down, wiped my eyes with the heel of my palm, and stared at the potato still resting on the table like it was waiting for instructions. Not this time, I said softly. You won't erase me like this. My hands moved on their own, grabbing my phone, tapping into my contacts. First I called Marvin. Ring. Then voicemail. Hey, it's your mother. I saw the reunion is happening Saturday. I guess I just want to know why no one told me. Call me back. My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. Next Diane. No answer. Then Lacey. Straight to voicemail. I sat in silence. The only sound was the faint buzz of the refrigerator behind me. That's when something in me hardened. This wasn't about missing a barbecue. It was about being invisible in the very family I built. The very people I raised and fed and loved. And I wasn't going to beg them to see me. I was going to make them see me. I stood up, pulled open the hall closet and reached for the garment bag I'd saved for special occasions. I knew exactly what was in there. My midnight blue church suit with rhinestone buttons and shoulder pads sharp enough to cut. Bought it in 2018 when I thought I might get invited to speak at the women's luncheon. I never did. But I kept the suit anyway. I laid it across the bed, then opened my jewelry box. My pearl clip-ons. My silver watch. My mother's brooch shaped like an eagle. Then I picked up the phone again. This time not to call family. I Googled limo rentals near me, Springfield, Illinois. The first few results popped up. I called the top listing. Yes, I said. Do you have availability for this Saturday afternoon? I need a pickup from my house and a drop-off at Fairwood Park. It's just me. Yes, it's for a family event. The woman on the line chuckled. Sounds like you're showing up in style. I smiled for the first time that day. Exactly. And I want everyone to see it. I spent the next few hours planning. I wrote down a list of names, every person who'd hurt me in silence. Not with fists or curses, but with neglect, with the kind of forgetting that feels like you're being buried alive while standing in the middle of a crowd. I would show up. I would look like royalty. And I would remind them exactly who I am. And maybe, just maybe, I'd tell them the one thing I've kept to myself for 23 years. Because if they want to forget me, fine. But they'll never forget what I'm about to say. If you've ever been underestimated or forgotten by the people who should have loved you most, subscribe. Because this story, it's only just getting started. The limo was pearl white with silver trim, long enough to make a statement, but sleek enough not to feel like I was screaming. Just enough to whisper, "You messed with the wrong matriarch." I booked it for 2 p.m. on the dot, just late enough to turn heads without missing the opening prayer, which I used to lead every single year. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay in bed staring up at the popcorn ceiling, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan and the crickets outside. My late husband Henry's side of the bed still had his imprint in my mind, though he'd been gone 6 years this July. I used to hate silence, but last night it helped me listen to everything they'd ever said without saying it. I woke up at 6:17 a.m. sharp. Put on a pot of coffee, took my blood pressure meds and cracked the window to let in the early summer air. I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook, the same one I used to plan Sunday school lessons in. This time I didn't plan scripture. I planned truth. See, there's something people forget about getting older. We carry entire histories in our bones. Stories, sacrifices, secrets. Some of them heavy, some of them holy. And when you spend your whole life holding your tongue to keep the peace, eventually your silence starts to feel like a prison. Today I was walking free. I ran my fingers over the list of names I'd written yesterday. Marvin, my oldest. Still bitter I didn't co-sign that third mortgage after his second divorce. Diane, his sister. Always sweet on the surface but can't breathe unless she's running the show. Lacey, my grandbaby. The one I loved like my own shadow. Now posting family photos like I don't exist. Next to each name I wrote one sentence. Just one. A truth I'd swallowed for too long. I didn't know yet if I'd read them aloud, but writing them down felt like sharpening knives. Not to cut, just to remind them I'm not dull. At 9 a.m. I pulled the garment bag from the closet. My hands moved slower now. Arthritis doesn't ask for permission, but I took my time. Brushed the fabric. Straightened the collar. Adjusted every rhinestone like I was getting ready for the Grammys. The suit still fit. It hugged my waist just right and fell perfectly at the ankle. I clipped on the pearl earrings, smoothed down my salt and pepper hair, and tied it back in a French roll just like I used to when Henry took me dancing. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who raised 3 children, buried 1 husband, paid off 2 mortgages, and never once missed a grandchild's birthday, until now. I wasn't just dressing for the reunion. I was dressing for every single time they made me feel like I didn't matter. At noon I made myself a sandwich and ate it slowly, watching the clock. My phone stayed silent the whole day. No calls. No texts. No last minute, "Oh my God, Grandma, we forgot." Nothing. By 1:45 p.m. I was sitting on the edge of my sofa in the living room, purse in lap, church fan in hand, heart thumping like a drumline. The honk. Not a short honk, but one of those long, deliberate ones. I stood up, smoothed my skirt and stepped out onto the porch. There was the limo. Gleaming in the sun, driver standing outside in a black suit and cap. He opened the door with a slight bow. "Miss Louise." "That's me." He smiled. "You look like royalty, ma'am." I smiled back. "That's the point." The ride to Fairwood Park was smooth. I sat in the back like I was gliding through the air, fingers resting on the edge of the window. I saw people stare as we passed, kids pointing, folks pulling out phones. Let them wonder who the woman in the limo was. By the time we pulled up to the park entrance, I could see the crowd already gathered, picnic tables filled, music playing, kids running around with water balloons. They'd brought the same red and white checkered tablecloths we'd used every year, the same homemade banner fluttering on the chain-link fence. Wilson Family Reunion, 2025. Only now it looked like I'd been written out of the script. He'll know. I tapped the driver on the shoulder. Circle once before stopping. Make sure they see. He chuckled, tipped his hat. Yes, ma'am. As we rolled past, I turned my face toward the crowd. I saw them. Marvin doing the two-step near the grill. Diane laughing loud enough for half the park to hear. Lacey filming a TikTok, no doubt. Then I saw the first face change. My niece Corinne. Her eyebrows shot up and she nudged her sister. Then her sister looked. Then someone else. Like dominoes. Heads turning. Fingers pointing. Hands shielding eyes from the sun. And then I heard it. Is that Grandma? No way. She came in a limo? Oh, she came to shut this all down. Yes, I did. The driver pulled to a stop near the picnic tables. He stepped out and opened the door for me. I slid out slowly, letting one foot touch the ground like it was a stage. The entire area fell quiet. Someone turned down the speaker. Even the music gave me space to speak. I adjusted my purse strap, took a deep breath and stood tall. Then Diane stepped forward. Mom, we didn't think you were coming. I tilted my head, keeping my voice smooth. I wasn't invited. She blinked. It must have been a mistake. Lacey thought you were. I held up my hand. No need to spin it. I saw the pictures. I saw the posts. You all planned this without me. Let's not pretend otherwise. Silence. I turned to face the whole crowd. My heart thudded against my ribs, but I kept my voice strong. I raised most of y'all in this park. I bandaged scraped knees, paid for school books, cooked enough potato salad to feed a small army. And today I find out I don't even make the guest list. More silence. One little girl asked her mom, "Is Grandma mad?" Diane stepped closer, eyes glassy. "Mom, don't do this here." I smiled. "Oh, I'm doing it here. Because that's where you did it. Publicly. Loudly. Without me." I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded paper. The one with the names and sentences. I didn't read it yet. I just held it. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to make a scene. I'm here to reclaim something." Lacey finally stepped forward. Her voice was small. "What?" I looked her in the eye. "My dignity." I stood at the edge of the picnic tables, paper still in hand, and watched my family squirm. Some looked away. Others avoided eye contact entirely, fidgeting with paper plates or fussing over toddlers like suddenly napkins needed folding. I hadn't even said anything yet. And still the truth was louder than the music. I could have walked away after that entrance. Let the limo do all the talking. But I didn't come here just to be seen. I came to be heard. Before I spoke again, I let the silence linger. Let them sit in the same discomfort I had sat in for months. No, years. The kind of silence where your phone doesn't ring, your mailbox stays empty, and the only voices you hear are the ones in your own head asking, "Did I do something wrong?" But I knew better. I didn't forget who I was. They did. "I wasn't always this dressed up," I finally said, stepping closer to the folding chairs. "Lord knows I've shown up to this park a mess more times than I can count." They chuckled nervously, those who remembered. Those who had the nerve to still feel shame. I walked over to the edge of the table, resting one gloved hand on the plastic cloth. First time I hosted the reunion was 1987. It was 97 degrees and I still fried chicken out the trunk of my car because the park's grill broke. "Y'all remember that?" Some heads nodded. Marvin mumbled, "Yeah, I remember." I pointed toward the tree at the far edge of the lot. That's where Henry sat back before the stroke. Had his little radio playing Motown the whole afternoon. He used to say, "Long as we got music and shade, baby, we got everything." That memory sat heavy in my chest. My Henry, my steady anchor. Back then, I continued, I was the one calling everybody, mailing out flyers, getting people to pitch in $5. I bought water jugs, packed coolers, made plates to take home for the cousins who couldn't make it. I glanced toward Diane. Back before social media could make you forget real people existed. She dropped her gaze. I looked out across the tables, saw all the people I used to stitch together like patchwork. Nieces, nephews, great-grandchildren running in the grass without a clue who kept the family warm when things got cold. You think this hurt because it was a party? I said. This hurt because it wasn't a party. It was tradition. And you threw me out of it like I was a leftover dish no one wanted to carry home. I turned slightly, letting my eyes drift toward Lacey. She'd stepped back into the crowd now, arms crossed over her chest, jaw clenched. And it hit me how much that child used to cling to me. She used to spend every other Saturday night on my couch watching Golden Girls reruns while I combed through her curls. Her mama would drop her off with a plastic bag full of snacks, and I'd give her the love I knew her parents were too busy to provide. And yet it was Lacey's story I saw first. Lacey's post that told me I didn't exist. My voice lowered, but I kept going. I was 26 when I got pregnant with Marvin, I said, locking eyes with him now. I was working at the diner full-time, Henry was laid off, and the only reason we didn't lose the house was because I picked up night shifts cleaning offices. I'd mop floors until 2 a.m., come home and feed Marvin before sunrise. He blinked, his eyes glinting now. Mama, you remember those blue sneakers you wanted for your 9th birthday? I asked. I didn't have enough money, so I sold my wedding bracelet at the pawn shop. He swallowed hard. You never told me that. No, I said, because I didn't want you to feel the weight. That's what mothers do. I turned to the rest of them. I never told y'all when the fridge broke, or when the lights got shut off for a weekend, or when Henry's hospital bills left me with $42 to my name. I carried all that in silence just so you'd never see the cracks. I paused, the tears brimming but refusing to fall. And now I see the cracks were never in my love. They were in your memory. The wind blew softly then, rustling paper plates and napkins. One of the toddlers tripped and cried, but no one moved. I'm not telling y'all this for pity, I said, stepping forward. I'm telling you because I realize something now. I tapped the folded paper in my hand. I thought that if I just kept giving, kept showing up, kept being dependable, you'd never forget me. But I see now, being useful is not the same as being valued. Someone whispered, wow. See, when you're young you think love is loud. Fireworks and attention. But when you get older you learn that love is in the showing up. It's in the remembering. And what you showed me this week is that somewhere along the line I went from a person to a placeholder. I looked back to Lacey. And you were supposed to be the one. You used to write me notes in crayon. Called me your best friend. And now you post a whole reunion, tag the dog but not your grandma. Her lip trembled. You want to post family values but forget the foundation? She opened her mouth but no sound came out. Just tears. I turned to leave then. My heart was pounding but my steps were steady. But before I got back into the limo I said one last thing. Loud enough for all of them to hear. You may have forgotten to invite me. But I'll give you something you will remember. I held up the folded sheet again. Because next year, when the DNA test results come in, some of y'all will realize I'm not the only one who's been left out. Gasps rippled through the group like thunder after lightning. And just like that I slid into the limo, closed the door behind me and watched their stunned faces blur through the tinted glass. If your family has ever made you feel like a stranger in your own story, keep watching. The truth bomb Grandma's about to drop next? It's been buried for decades. Subscribe because the next part will change everything. I thought I would feel satisfied after leaving them speechless at the park. But when the limo pulled away and I looked back at that sea of faces, all wide eyes and dropped jaws, my stomach twisted. It wasn't guilt. It was grief. Not the kind that hits you all at once. The slow kind. The kind that creeps in like cold air under a door, quiet and constant. I stared out the window, gripping my purse like it might fall apart in my lap. I had dropped the truth like a match on dry grass. And it was already catching fire. By the time I got home my phone had lit up like a Christmas tree. 12 missed calls. 8 voicemails. 15 unread texts. Some from Diane, some from Marvin. Even a few from numbers not saved in my phone anymore. Old cousins I hadn't heard from since Henry's funeral. But one name stood out. Lady. Her message was short. Grandma, please. Is it true? Call me back. I'm shaking. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I sat on my bed, slowly peeled off the rhinestone suit, laid it carefully on the hanger and hung it back in the garment bag. I changed into my house dress and fuzzy socks. The kind of clothes you wear when you need to feel real. I poured myself some sweet tea, sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope. It had been in the drawer for 6 months. Waiting. Back in January, I bought one of those DNA test kits on sale. Not for fun, not for ancestry, but because something had been gnawing at me for years. A feeling I couldn't shake. Lacey wasn't Marvin's daughter. And Marvin might not even know. It started back when she was born. Timing didn't line up right. Marvin and Crystal were on a break, and she suddenly came back pregnant. Marvin never questioned it. He was just so desperate to be a father, especially after the miscarriage they had the year before. But I always knew something was off. Lacey didn't look like anyone in our family. Her blood type didn't match. Lord help me, that woman lied smoother than silk. Always had excuses. Always had secrets. I never said anything. Because Lacey was mine in every way that mattered. I helped raise her. Changed her diapers. Braided her hair. Sat through spelling bees and football games and heartbreaks. I loved that child like she came from my own soul. But love doesn't erase truth. And when I sent in my own DNA, matched it against Lacey's, the results came back clear. No biological relation. Not even a distant match. Nothing. I'd read the report over and over. Printed it. Folded it into that envelope. And then shoved it in the drawer. But now, after being erased from my own family, I wasn't going to keep burying the truth to protect people who had no problem burying me. I finally called Marvin. He answered on the first ring. Ma, what is going on? Diane's losing her mind. Lacey's crying. You said something about a DNA test? What are you talking about? His voice was frantic, desperate. Like the edges of his world were starting to crumble. I stayed calm. Sit down, Marvin. I am sitting down. I took a breath. I've been holding on to something for a long time. And I didn't say it because I didn't want to hurt you. But after today, after being left out like an old napkin, I realized, if y'all can forget me, then you can handle remembering this. I heard him exhale. I unfolded the paper in front of me even though I had it memorized. I did a DNA test, Marvin. Compared it to Lacey's. He went silent. She's not your daughter. His breath caught. No, that's not possible. Crystal and I, she was pregnant when we got back together. I know what she told you. But the math never worked, Marvin. And now science agrees. He was breathing fast now, panicked. No, Ma. Don't do this to me. You don't know what you're saying. I raised her. I love her. He calls me Dad. I was there for everything. You can't just. I'm not taking anything away from you, I said gently. I'm just giving you the truth. What you do with it is your business. He hung up without another word. 5 minutes later, Diane called. Her tone wasn't as kind. What in God's name are you doing, Mama? I told the truth. You dropped a bomb on your own family. At a park. With children present. I snorted. You mean the family that couldn't even remember to send me an invite? That family. She stammered, tried to backpedal. I thought Lacey was handling it. She said she posted about it. I figured you saw. Oh, so now I'm supposed to catch up on family news through Facebook posts and blurry selfies? Silence. I'm not your receptionist, Diane, I added. I'm your mother. And you should have picked up the phone. She sighed, quieter now. I just didn't think it was a big deal. There was the wound beneath the wound. I know, I said. That's the problem. I didn't sleep again that night. My voicemail kept filling up. One message after another. Marvin weeping. Lacey asking me to please just talk to her. Crystal even had the nerve to leave me a message. You had no right, Louise. That wasn't your story to tell. I didn't delete it. I wanted to remember her voice when everything else fell apart. The next morning I heard a knock on my door. It was Lacey. No makeup. Hoodie. Eyes swollen. I didn't speak. I just stepped aside and let her in. She sat at the kitchen table, same spot she used to sit while I made her grilled cheese. She didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "Why did you tell them?" I stared at her. "Because they forgot me." She blinked, confused. "They forgot me, Lacey. You all did. And when people forget you, they stop deserving your silence." Her chin trembled. "I didn't know you weren't invited." "But I thought someone else had told you." "I didn't mean to. But you saw I wasn't there. You took the pictures. You posted the stories. You tagged everybody. And not once did it occur to you that maybe Grandma should be here." She dropped her head into her hands and sobbed. "And Lord help me, I cried too." "I love you, Lacey," I said, voice shaking. "That will never change. But love doesn't mean lying forever. You deserved to know the truth. So did your father." She looked up. "So what happens now?" I didn't have an answer. Because sometimes telling the truth doesn't fix things. Sometimes it just shows you where the cracks were all along. The funeral was for Marvin's best friend, Jerome. A man I'd known since he was 9 years old, back when he used to ride his little red bike past our porch and beg for freeze pops. Jerome died from a stroke. 49 years old. Healthy one minute, gone the next. When Marvin called to tell me, his voice was hollow. No anger. No grief. Just emptiness. "Service is Saturday, Ma," he said. "At New Bethel Baptist. Noon." I could tell from the pause that he didn't know whether to invite me or not. "I'll be there," I said. I could hear him blink. "Okay." He hung up before I could ask how he was holding up. New Bethel was one of those old Midwest churches with stained glass windows and wooden pews that creaked if you shifted your weight too much. I hadn't been there in years. Used to sing in the choir back in the 90s. I still knew which floorboard by the front pew squeaked when you stepped on it. That Saturday I dressed in black. Not just for Jerome but for everything else that had died in the past 2 weeks. Trust, peace, illusions. I wore my gray church hat with the satin band and a black coat buttoned to the collar. I wanted to look composed. Untouchable. But inside I was unraveling. When I arrived, the parking lot was already full. I walked in alone. Heads turned as I entered. Some nodded in recognition. Others froze mid-sentence. I found a seat near the back, right side for pews from the door. It used to be my spot. I sat there during Henry's funeral. I sat there when Diane got baptized. Now I sat there as the woman who broke her family open. The choir sang "His Eye is on the Sparrow." Their voices filled the air, but my mind was elsewhere. Flashes of the reunion. The limo door swinging shut. Marvin's broken voice on the phone. Lacey's tears at my kitchen table. The pastor stepped up to deliver the eulogy. People nodded, wept, hugged. The smell of perfume and pressed suits filled the sanctuary. And then, at the end of the service, Pastor Reynolds did something he rarely did. He opened the floor. "If anyone here would like to say a few words about our brother Jerome, please come forward." There was a pause. Then Marvin stood up. He walked slow. Not limping, but like his legs weren't entirely his own. When he reached the pulpit, he gripped the sides tight. "My name's Marvin Wilson," he began. "I've known Jerome since we were little boys, back before we even knew what death was." A few people chuckled softly. He continued. "Jerome was more than a friend. He was a brother. He stood by me through my divorce. He was the first person I called when Lacey was born. He even came to my daddy's funeral when he was fighting pneumonia." Marvin paused, swallowing hard. "I trusted him. Like I trust my own blood." Then his voice cracked. "But right now, I don't know who is my blood anymore." The room froze. A couple of heads turned toward me. He looked up straight at the crowd. "I found out last week that the little girl I raised, the daughter I thought was mine, might not be." Gasps echoed through the sanctuary. "And I didn't find out from the woman who gave birth to her. I didn't find out from a doctor or a letter." He turned, looked straight at me. "I found out from my mother." You could have heard a pin drop. I didn't flinch. Didn't lower my eyes. Just sat there, hands folded in my lap, heart hammering so hard I thought it might leap out of my chest. Marvin kept talking. My whole life, my mama's been the strongest person I know. She carried this family. Carried me when I didn't deserve it. I used to think she kept secrets to protect us. But now. He trailed off. Shook his head. I don't know anymore. He stepped down from the pulpit. Didn't sit next to me. Didn't even glance my way again. After the service I walked out alone. Outside, families were hugging, crying, comforting each other. I walked slowly to the curb waiting for my ride. And then I heard her voice behind me. Grandma, wait. It was Lacey. She jogged up, wrapped in a black shawl, eyes red but focused. Please, she said out of breath. Talk to me. I turned toward her but didn't speak. She blinked fast, desperate. I know it wasn't your place, but I also know you wouldn't have said it unless you were sure. And I need to understand what this means. I exhaled. It means I love you, Lacey. But it also means love isn't the same as blood. And blood isn't the same as truth. She looked like she'd been slapped. I still feel like yours, she said, voice cracking. You are mine, I said. But I'm not the one you need to tell that to. She looked down. He won't return my calls, she whispered. The limo arrived. I didn't even request one this time. I think Diane sent it. Her way of apologizing without having to say anything. I started toward it, then stopped. Turned back to Lacey. There's one more thing, I said. She looked up. I didn't do this to punish you. Or your father. Or anyone. I did it because being silent in this family is how we lost each other in the first place. She nodded slowly. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a photo. It was an old one. Faded. Me and her. On the porch. She was 5, covered in chalk dust, sitting in my lap. I had my apron on. My hand was in her hair. I keep this in my wallet, she said. Even now. My throat tightened. I took the photo. Held it like it was glass. Then I reached forward, pulled her into a hug, and for a moment everything fell away. The lies. The silence. Vain. Just me and my granddaughter. Still family. Somehow. Later that night back home I made tea and sat at the kitchen table. No phone. No Facebook. No emails. Just peace. Then came a knock at the door. When I opened it, it was Marvin. He looked like he hadn't slept. Same hoodie from the service. Hands stuffed in his pockets. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He sat at the table staring at the photo of Lacey and me. I hated you for telling me, he said softly. I hated you because you shattered the last good thing I had left. I said nothing. But then I realized, he continued, you didn't shatter anything. You just took off the mask. He looked up. She's still my daughter. I know. And you're still my mother. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I know. He reached across the table. Held my hand. I'm sorry for forgetting you. We sat there for a long time saying nothing. Sometimes healing doesn't look like a hug. Sometimes it's just staying in the room. If you've ever had to rebuild a broken family from the ground up, this story is for you. Like, comment, and share if this touched you. And don't forget to subscribe for more real, raw stories that remind us what dignity looks like. Tell us in the comments, have you ever had to remind someone who you are?